Good afternoon and welcome to the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization, the Governing Board meeting, this December 12, 2019. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Second on the agenda is public comments, so if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to sign up, please do so and turn the card in over here to staff. And depending on the item you chose, we will definitely allow you to for your comments. Next is reports. Executive Director's Report, Ms. Georgiana.
Good afternoon. I'd like to cover a few items listed on page 2 in your agenda if you'd like to follow along. The Central Florida MPO Alliance met on October the 11th. You have the meeting highlights in your agenda. At that meeting, DOT presented 2 items. They gave an update and status on the Sun Trails program as well as the Coast to Coast Trail. They also gave a presentation on the Central Florida Visitor Study. And that study, the Central Florida Visitor Study, was conducted to fully understand visitor travel within the region, recommend ways to best capitalize on tourism assets, and recommend strategies to prepare for expected growth within the Central Florida region. And of course, some of those strategies we're going to be incorporating into the development of our 2045 long-range transportation plan as we move along. The next meeting of the Alliance is scheduled for January the 10th, 2020. Also, as a reminder, we do not meet in January. However, staff will be conducting a member orientation on Thursday, January 9th at 1:30. This is for committee and governing board members, and we want to do a better job, make sure that all of our members have a better understanding of their role in transportation and how their decisions can have a positive impact on the communities. So this is what we want to be doing every year, and so in place of the January board meeting in this room, we will be holding that orientation. Speaking of orientation, the MPOAC Weekend Institute for elected officials will be coming up again next year. It will be held in March and April, Tampa and Orlando. We're allowed to send 3 members. It was a very, it was sought after training last year. They did not have enough spots, and I know we had 3 members from this board to attend. So we were really excited about that. So we can send 3 members. All of the expenses will be paid by the TPO. And so if you have not been to the MPOAC Institute and you would like to go, please contact Lisa. There's a flyer at your place, and you can select whether you want to go to the Tampa or the Orlando session. So we would encourage you to do that. You will know everything about MPOs that you'd ever want to know. So the first annual Space Coast TPO member retreat will be held on Friday, April the 24th. From 8:30 to noon at the Center for Collaboration in Rockledge. The retreat will be in lieu of an April board meeting. The theme that we're going to have this year is Innovations That Move Us. And we thought that would be very appropriate for 2020. We're in the process of lining up some dynamic speakers for the retreat. And this retreat will be for all the committee members, all of our board members, as well as our transportation agencies. And the goal is for the members to learn something new and have an actionable item that they can work on as a transportation policymaker. And so we're really excited about this. If everyone enjoys it and it goes over well, we'd like to continue this every year and have a different theme every year. Also, just as a reminder, everyone should have received a project prioritization methodology survey. It's a short survey, 8 questions, that's going to help us guide how we're going to prioritize projects. DOT prefers us to have one priority list. Currently, we have one priority list, but with different sections. We have off-system projects, we have state projects, We have bike ped projects, we have ITS projects. And so what the department is encouraging is to combine that into one list. For us to be able to do a good job, we need to understand what you think is important from a priority standpoint. Of course, we will always have a SIS list, the Strategic Intermodal System, and we will have a regionally significant list, but we need some help in trying to come up with that methodology. So we would encourage you to fill out that survey. And lastly, I would like to ask Kim to come up. We are trying to keep our Vision Zero bicycle fatality and serious injuries report up front. At the beginning of a meeting, we want to make sure everyone understands where we're at as we move through this process.
Hi, I'm Kim Smith, Education and Safety Coordinator for the TPO, and I really hate giving this report in the merry month of December because we've had a really rough quarter, last quarter of the year. I think the week of Thanksgiving, we had 8 fatalities. We've just had 2 more. So we've already surpassed the number of fatalities we had last year. And of course, we have 2.5 more weeks to go of holiday time. To that end, and we're going to continue to have this report, and I'm not going to go through every page that we have for you that comes in your packet. And you see we started out, we had some green, and now everything's, I think we have all red except for 2. So everything is above last year's average in all the categories, and we'll continue to have it, but we're going to try and bring you some other pieces. We'll have our next Vision Zero Task Force workshop at the end of January, and they're going to that'll be where the task force gets the data, broken down by where the crash is happening, what are the contributing causes, that kind of thing. So we'll have that for you to look at. We'll be bringing you some of those pieces. And if there's other things that you would like to see when we do this report, let myself or Georgiana know, and we'll make sure that we get that incorporated. We just want to keep you up to date on this very important project that we've taken on. So, the other thing that I want to mention while I'm up here is some of you that have been with us a while know that we do a student travel survey of how students get to school. We did that this morning. Murphy's Law says, if it can go wrong, it will. We've had beautiful weather, and today we didn't have so much. So that may skew our numbers a little bit, but that survey did get conducted this morning, so we'll have that report back to you as well in February.
All right.
And if anybody has any
right.
questions.
Any questions? I just have a quick one. On these reports that you get, will it state on there if they were on a cell phone or any distractions?
The cell phone thing is a distracted driving. Distracted driving is very hard to cite, and often when that goes in a report, it maybe comes out as careless, because somebody's not going to admit, I was on my phone and I slammed into the back of somebody. I mean, it's just, or the side of somebody. People just don't tell police officers that. But yes, that is some of the data we're going to give you is what roads they're happening on and what the contributing cause was and what the violations were that were cited in those crashes.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any other questions? All right. Mr. Forrester.
Do we get numbers on estimated miles driven and population factored into this at all? I mean, I don't know what kind of data we collect on miles driven on various roads.
That has not been one that I've heard. We can think about how that might correlate into fatalities, and certainly if we feel like there's a way that would factor in, it would be something we want to look at. We certainly could look about whether they're residents or whether they're visitors to our area, but I can tell you that number does get looked at a lot, and it does show that it's our residents that are getting in our crashes. It's not really our tourists. A lot of people think that, and that's just not the case.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And I will tell you, just so you have a number, and it's different from what's in here, we stand at 68 this year is the number of fatalities we've had this year today.
Wow, thank you, Ms. Smith. Next is 3B, the Technical Advisory Committee, Citizens Advisory Committee, which we call the TAC CAC Report. Sarah Crum.
That's going to be mine.
Okay.
The Technical and Citizen Advisory Committee met on Monday. At your place, you will find a summary of actions and attendance from the meeting. The committees selected their annual election of officers. The committees also recommended the TPO approve the 2020 meeting calendar, the 2019 public participation plan, as well as the fiscal year 20 through 24 transportation improvement program amendment. And that's it.
All right, thanks, Georgiana. So I'm going to need a motion for approval of the draft of the minutes of October 7th, 2019.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Lober, second by Ms. Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 3B is the Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Trails Advisory Committee, and that will be reported
Ms. Sarah.
by Ms. Crum. Okay.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Sarah Crom, the Multimodal Program Specialist. I don't have much for a report today because we haven't met since the last time we met with you guys. So January 27th will be the next BPAC meeting. We are currently taking BPAC award nominations. So if you know of a community member or a staff member or someone who is just really an outstanding person in encouraging or helping out the bicycle and pedestrian community or educating or building, whatever it might be, please get a hold of Kim to place your nomination. And we'll be doing BPAC awards in March.
All
So
right.
thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for that report. Next is 3D, the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board Committee, and that will be Terry Jordan.
Maybe Scott Nelson, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Scott Nelson, okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's good to be here with you. In your packet, it does say the date of the TD LCB. The last meeting was June 17th. It actually was on November 18th. I want to say just a word or two. The Transportation Disadvantaged TD is a technical term in Florida. It's people, seniors and disabled, and people that live in less populated areas that have a hard time getting to a traditional fixed route service. Florida is very supportive of transportation for transportation disadvantaged people, I think, because it's such a retirement state. And so there is a TD commission that meets on a regular basis, and there are TD trip and equipment grants that we always get. They're formula grants based on our annual operating report statistics. And so that's why we present the AOR to you. Just a couple other words. The TD LCB meets quarterly, and our chairman has been Rocky Randalls, and he's done a great job. He's served in that role for quite a while, and we honored him at the last LCB meeting. The statute says that the chair of the local coordinating board needs to be an elected official, so that position will be vacant.
Okay.
So just
We'll be
mentioning
voting
that.
on that.
Right, okay. I wanted to say a word too. The TD Commission is re-examining the formula for issuing their trip and equipment grant, which could possibly result in us receiving less grant funding. And so I sent a lengthy letter to them a few months ago when I first heard about it, and also was in on a conference call recently to kind of fight for Space Coast Area Transit in Brevard County. So they have a big committee that's examining that, and we'll see the outcome of that. The AOR, let me say just a word about that. You have a kind of a short version of that here in your packet. Just a couple highlights. Employment trips. These are not all the trips, passenger trips that Space Coast Area Transit provides. It is just the TD trips. But employment, nonetheless, is the highest trip reason listed on the surveys there. So we like to see that. Passenger no-shows, it says 11,000. That seems like a radically high number, and we always need to explain that when we present this report to the LCB every year. That's because of the nature of our contract routes. They go around on regular routes and pick up people in neighborhoods. The bus makes its same route every day. If somebody doesn't show up, it's not a problem for us. It doesn't delay us or anything like that. So it's kind of like a school bus trip. Vehicle miles and revenue miles are up a little bit this year. Chargeable accidents are also up. So we're doing the same as Kim and trying to address that. Finally, revenues and expenses are both up a little bit. Last thing I'll say is that it looks like we had a net profit of $1.4 million. That is not the case. We don't make money off of this. It's because of the difference of the state fiscal year and the county's fiscal year. And so it reconciles at the end of the year. There were other statutory things that we did at the LCB meeting. I can go through those, but I don't want to take up too much time here, so I could take any questions if
All right,
anyone
thank you,
has
Mr.
any.
Nelson. Any questions for Mr. Nelson?
I just have
Yeah,
one
Mr.
question.
Jordan.
Thank you. I'm just trying to understand with your budget. So because you said expenses and revenues is not what it seems, are you operating in the black, or are you operating in the red, or what?
We balance our budget at the end of every year.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, thanks.
okay. With the help of county general fund and as well as fare box revenue and the grants that we get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay,
any more
thanks.
questions? All right, seeing none. Next is item 3E, the Florida Department of Transportation, FDOT, Jamie Kersey. Welcome.
Good afternoon, thank you. Just a couple updates that have not been included in your package. It's in addition. I just want to give you an update on the State Road A1A pedestrian improvements crosswalk installations. The project team is close to completing the second phase of construction. The project team is working towards being able to safely remove the barrels in areas where they have been completed specific activities. Just please take note that the weather and unforeseen circumstances may affect the time frame of getting those removed. They are currently working on, the past few weeks, they were working on being able to complete most of the earthwork required, including the installation of the French drain system on both the east and west sides of the roadway, grading, forming, and pouring of the sidewalks. Over the next 2 weeks, the team will be working on the installation of the base of each of the rectangular rapid flashing beacon signals for each of the crosswalks, installation of the signage, paving and roadway markings. Current lane closures are being modified to better fit the conditions. They're really pushing towards hopefully having this all completed by the end of this year, if not early next year. And also, we do have an open house scheduled for January 7th. It's Tuesday. It's for the O'Galley Boulevard, State Road 518 at Turnabout Road. This is a new traffic signal at the intersection of O'Galley Boulevard and State Road 518 and Turnabout Road. It's going to be held at Discover Life Church, located at 3550 West O'Galley Boulevard in Melbourne. And I also wanted to advise you all that we do have management changes. Secretary Mike Shannon is no longer with the department. His last day was last Thursday. We do have an interim secretary. His name is Jared Perdue. He is District 3's Director of Development. He is our acting secretary. We do not have a set time on when that position will be filled. We also have Allison Stetner has left us. She is now with Central Office. She got a promotion. So now she is over, she's the director over our policy planning in Central Office.
Oh, okay.
So those are my updates.
All right,
Any
thank you. Any
questions?
questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. It's great to see you. Next is the consent agenda. Georgiana.
Yes, there are 3 items on the consent agenda, and I'll read them aloud for the record, and they can be passed as one motion. 4A is the Space Coast TPO Governing Board minutes of October 10th, 2019. You also have 4B, which are the committee appointments to include the add-ons that are at your place. We received a lot of committee appointments after the agenda package was put together. And then 4C is the 2020 meeting calendar.
All right, thank you. Georgiana, any questions? All right, so I need a motion.
Second.
All right, Commissioner Allender, move for approval of the consent agenda A through C with the additions. Second by Ms. Young. Discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Was it Ms. All right, second by Ms. Minus, sorry. Discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 5, action reports. A is the annual elections of officers and committee appointments. Mr. Paul Gugelman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to go ahead and elect your board members at this particular point, and anytime somebody wishes to make a nomination, a second under Robert's rules is not required. The first position is chairman. Mayor Meehan is eligible for re-election. Would you have any interest in serving again?
Yes, I would love to do that.
Okay. Floor is open for nominations for chairman.
I nominate Kathy Meehan, Chairman.
Okay, Ms. Minus nominates Mayor Meehan. Any other nominations? All right. In that case, we'll ask for a motion to close nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Mayor Meehan.
So moved.
Motion by Lober, second by Allender. Discussion, seeing none, all in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and the motion passes. The next position is the Vice Chair, Council Member Santiago. And Georgiana, I think you've talked with Council Member
Correct.
Santiago. Is he interested in continuing? or
He
what?
is not interested in keeping that position.
Okay, so the vice chair's position is open. Traditionally, we've moved the secretary up to that position, but the board can obviously take whatever action that it wants. So we will open nominations for the vice chair position.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lober.
I'd like to appoint our current secretary, Ms. Young, to serve as vice chair.
Okay, motion nomination by Commissioner Lober to appoint Councilmember Young as the vice chair. Any other nominations?
Move that nomination be closed.
And a unanimous ballot cast for Ms. Young. Is there a second to that
Second.
motion by Mr. Jordan? Second by Mr. Lober. Discussion, seeing none, all in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes. And Secretary's position is now open. Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Goodman, I'd like to nominate Ms. Yvonne Manis.
Okay, there is a nomination for Ms. Minus by Mr. Jordan. Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mayor Williams.
Okay, nomination by Commissioner Lober to appoint Mayor Williams. All right, any other nominations?
Move that nominations be closed.
Okay, motion to close the nominations. Any, a second?
Second.
Second by Meehan. Discussion, seeing none, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
So let's do this as, can we do this as a hand count? All those that are in favor of Mayor Williams, please raise your hand. Okay,
Put your hand up there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have five votes for Mayor Williams, and then
Oh, my God.
I can see where this is going.
I can see where this is going.
But we'll take.
I counted.
We'll take the, we'll take the vote for Councilmember Minus. If you'll raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have a tie, folks.
Wait a minute.
You can't vote, no,
Oh, that's right.
no. So we have
So-
we have a tie vote.
Can we ask the two candidates if they wish to continue, or if one wants to concede to the other?
Certainly, that's a very good idea. Mayor Williams, Councilmember Minus.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, Brian, but Ms. Minus, I'd support her.
You're a gentleman.
Okay.
All righty. We have Ms. Minus then as the only nominee at this point. All those in favor of seating Ms. Minus as the new secretary signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mayor Williams.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
The next position is the Assistant Secretary. Traditionally, the Executive Director of the MPO has served in this position, so we'll ask for a motion to approve her continuing in that position.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Lober, second by Allender. Discussion, seeing no discussion, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
We got it.
All right.
Now we're to the Executive Board, and we'll take each position one at a time.
Okay.
The first position is for at-large officer number 1. Currently, that is occupied by Melbourne Council member Paul Alfrey, who's not here today. Ms. Gillette, have you talked with Mr. Alfrey? Do we know if he's interested in continuing?
I have not. I have not spoken with him.
Okay, so we do not know if Mr. Alfrey is interested in continuing. And I'll just let you know that the next at-large officer position that we would be talking about is Ms. Minus, who's been elevated to secretary, so we may have a vacancy there. So we're back to officer number 1, Mr. Alfrey's position.
I'll nominate Walter Johnson.
I'm sorry, I declined, sir. Thank you, though.
I nominate Allender.
Okay, there is a nomination by Mr. Allender to appoint Mr. Johnson for the minutes, who has politely declined. And then we have a nomination by Mr. Jordan to seat Mr. Allender as at-large officer number 1.
Second.
And any other nominations?
Move that nomination is closed, sir.
Second.
And an unanimous ballot cast for Mr. Allender, right? Okay, that motion by Jordan, second by Meehan to do that. And I'm repeating this, by the way, for the benefit of the minutes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, and the motion passes. All right, the at-large officer position number 2 is currently occupied by Ms. Minus, who's been elevated to secretary. So that's an open position. I will tell you, I think it's correct that Mr. Anderson
Correct.
from Palm Bay has talked with Ms. Gillette and has indicated an interest in serving. So that position's open for nominations. Commissioner Lober.
Not as a slight against anyone else, but I would like to see Mayor Williams as our at-large officer number 2, so I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion.
Ms. Minus second.
Seconds are not needed for nominations,
yes.
but nomination by Commissioner Lober to seat Mayor Williams as at-large officer number 2. Any other nominations? Seeing none, motion by Mr. Jordan to close nominations and cast unanimous ballot for Mayor Williams. Discussion, seeing none, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion passes.
Congratulations.
At this point, I think I can continue, or I can pass the gavel back to you.
You can continue.
All right, I'll continue. All right, unless you
You're
guys,
doing a great job.
unless you guys want to oust me, I mean, I'm oustable.
No, not
Okay,
at all.
we have our MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization Advisory Council representatives. Currently, Mayor Meehan serves in that position. Interested in continuing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Motion to go ahead and seat her.
Second.
Okay. Motion by.
You can't get ahead of Jordan.
By Jordan? All right, actually, we should, and a second by Johnson, because we're actually seating her. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion passes. Now, the alternate position is currently occupied by Rocky Randalls,
Rocky Randalls.
unknown to most of us. But in any event, that position is an open position. Is there anybody that would like to serve as the Space Coast TPO representative on the State MPO Advisory Council? I will tell you that the council just so you know, meets 4 times a year. It does usually meet in Orlando. So
Yes.
Yes.
nominations are open. Ms. Young.
I would serve.
Ms. Young would serve.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else interested?
She can't nominate herself, though.
I'll nominate her.
Second.
You don't have.
Commissioner Lober has nominated Ms. Young. Any other nominations?
Move that nominations are closed.
Second.
Any unanimous ballot cast for
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Thank you.
Motion by Jordan. Is there a second out there?
Second.
Second by Allender. Discussion, seeing no discussion, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion passes. Now we get
All
on
right,
to
Andrew Young.
the Central Florida Alliance. We have, I see here, I think 2 open positions, Georgiana. Rocky Randalls and Councilmember Santiago
Correct.
has indicated he does not want to continue in that position.
Okay.
Let's take the representatives first, and then we'll do the alternates. So representatives, Mr. Anderson has indicated he wants to continue.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Lober, second by Jordan.
No, you don't need a second, right?
Well, this is actually not a nomination, it's a motion to go ahead and seat. So, but that's just a Robert's Rule thing. In any event. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, the motion passes. All right, now we have an open position, and that is for the TPO representative on the Central Florida MPO Alliance, Mr. Randalls. That position is vacant, so we will take
Make a motion.
nominations.
I'd like to put up Ms. Minus.
Okay, nomination for Ms. Minus. Is there another nomination? Seeing none, Mr. Jordan?
Yes, move that the nominations are closed and the rest of the stuff.
Unanimous ballot. All right, motion by Jordan. Is there a second out there? Second by Lober. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by voting aye. Ms. Minus
Aye.
has been elevated from an alternate to a full-fledged representative for the TPO. That gets us to the alternate positions. And Ms. Gillette, does Mr. Santiago want to continue as an alternate?
He does not.
He does not. And Ms. Minus has been elevated. So we have 2 open alternate positions. We'll take nominations for the first seat.
Question,
Yes, ma'am.
as an alternate, am I allowed to serve?
As an alternate, are you allowed to serve?
Good question.
I think you are.
Okay, I move that Lorraine is the alternate.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Jordan, second by Lober to go ahead and seat Councilmember Koss from COCO to serve as the alternate rep for the TPO on the Central Florida MPO Alliance. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
And opposition, like sign. The motion passes. Now we have an open position. The alternate representative was Ms. Minus, who's been elevated. So we have nominations for that position.
I nominate Robert Jordan.
I decline.
Okay, there was a nomination by Mayor Johnson to seat Councilmember Jordan. Councilmember Jordan politely declined.
I nominate Walt Johnson, who cannot decline.
I respectfully
Nomination by Commissioner Allender to seat Mayor Johnson.
I respectfully decline, sir.
Okay.
nominate Stu Glass.
Okay.
Can I serve?
Well, I don't, are you,
He's an alternate too.
yeah,
He hasn't been reelected.
I haven't been reappointed for next year.
yeah,
okay.
therein lies the problem. Yeah.
So I will nominate Ms. Young.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Glass nominates Ms. Young to be the alternate rep. Are there any other nominations?
Can I ask a question? Where's this
If it's
meeting
not too
held?
difficult.
It's not,
Oh.
it's not different. Where's it held?
It's in Orlando, in the downtown
Yeah,
area.
Metro Plan.
Go, Ms.
Yeah.
Young.
Oh, it's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge in the heart of downtown.
Okay.
All righty. Now it's time for any other nominations?
I move that nominations are closed.
An unanimous ballot
Yes.
cast for Ms. Young. Is there a second to that motion by Ms. Jordan, second by Commissioner Lober? Discussion, seeing none, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion passes. And now we get to the last position, which is the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board.
I'm sorry.
What did we miss?
I think we may have missed Kathy.
Yes, we did.
I don't have anything.
Yes, for the, we missed it.
Yeah, we did.
Kathy, for the TPO.
For the Central Florida?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're very right. You're very right. Mayor Meehan, are you interested in continuing that position?
Yes, sir.
I'll make that a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Lober, second by Mayor Johnson, to reseat Mayor Meehan as the TPO representative. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion passes. Okay, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Chairman of the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. That person, as was identified earlier, has to be an elected official. And that person is, pardon me, is appointed by this board. So nominations, obviously, Mr. Randall's not eligible. So nominations are now open for this
All right.
position.
I'd like to appoint Andrea Young.
Okay. Nomination by Mayor Meehan to seat Andrea Young as the chairman. Any other nominations? Once, twice, three times? Mr. Jordan?
Yes, move that the nominations are closed.
And?
all the
Unanimous ballot.
Yes.
Okay, that's the motion by Jordan. Is there a second by Lober? Discussion, seeing none, all those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. And I thank you all for helping me struggle through all of that. But we did it. We got
All
through
right,
it.
thank you. Thank you, everybody. Congratulations, and I'm certainly pleased to serve this board, and so that's good. All right. Next is 5B, adopt the Resolution 2008, 2019, the Public Participation Plan, and that's going to be Abby that's going to report on that. Welcome, Abby.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Abby Hemingway. I'm the Public Involvement Officer for the Space Coast TPO, and today we're here to talk about the 2019 Draft Public Participation Plan. So just to give some overview, what is the Public Participation Plan? And I'm going to refer to it as PPP because it's a lot shorter. What is the PPP? It's a document that's created to outline the guidelines used by the TPO during the course of public participation activities. It describes who we are, what transportation planners do, and how to participate in the process. So why do we need this document? Engaging our citizens in the transportation planning process allows for greater consideration of local and regional concerns and gives the public a sense of ownership of the developed solutions on projects. Meaningful and effective participation is essential to the successful implementation of a plan, a project, or a program. And as you know, we do many. And it is necessary to ensure the needs of local citizenry are adequately addressed. So this slide here gives you just a few key points of overview for this plan and its purpose. It talks about our engagement tools, our strategies. That full document is included in your packet. It's also on our website. It also notes public comment periods, the length of them for each of our core work products that we're required to develop. And it also talks about opportunities that we have for public engagement when it comes to workshops and public meetings. So what is the schedule of this document? What does it look like? The last time this document was updated was in 2016. So we review it every 3 years. We're required to at least update it every 5 years, but we do it every 3. This document has the longest public comment period for any work product that we create. It's 45 days. So this has been open since October 28th. The public comment period for this document. We have promoted it in various ways, through our newsletter, through social media, through direct emails to our distribution lists, through a press release. We've had some news media features on it as well, and we've also been receiving comments. So today, obviously in December, is now its adoption. And the reason why we do it every 3 years is this document will reflect changes in local and state and federal legislation, and it also adjusts to new technologies and to meet the needs of the community. We know a lot can happen in 3 years. So what has changed since the last version? If you were here 3 years ago, or if you glanced at the 2016 one, it looks extremely different. It's more visually appealing. It includes a lot of icons, highlight tables, and visual images to capture the reader's attention and to help with readability of the document. That's actually a requirement by Federal Highway that we have visualization techniques. The way that readers consume information in 2019 is even different from 2016. They want short little bits of information, easy to consume and comprehend. Staff has also revised the document to address consistency and simplicity of our planning processes. I think sometimes the public gets really bogged down in the details of what we do and who we are. So we've tried to make that more streamlined and consistent. Additionally, our communication methods have drastically changed. With the rise of social media and digital communication software, these new channels have helped streamline and to improve our engagement techniques. So there's some big things included in that document. I'm not going to go over all of them. Our measures of effectiveness is a huge one. You can see what our baseline was, what our targets are. And so just to continue, just some updates since the 2016 version. Lastly, we've included sections and pages to address how we reach target audiences when reaching out to the public. That can include underserved populations, senior citizens, the millennial group, and transportation disadvantaged. In the last few years, we've started to engage with these groups, such as attending 321 Millennial meetings, presenting at local young professional chambers, hosting senior stroll events, and regularly attending the TD-LCB meetings. This information is vital to share with our public because it reviews how we ensure access for all. So that was very brief, but I'm not going to go over a 70-page document. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. It was really fun. This sounds nerdy, but it was very fun to work on this document, especially because I live and breathe public involvement. Of course, it took a village to get all this content together because a lot has changed. So we're very happy with this document, but there's always room for improvement. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer it.
Thank you, Abby. It's a very good document. Commissioner Lober.
Just real briefly, because it's going to bother me if I don't ask. Are you of any relation to Logan?
Yeah, I'm his wife.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. The name's unfamiliar enough. I thought there's got to be a tie there somewhere.
Slightly related, yeah.
Yes. Any questions for Abby? Great. It's a great job.
So today we're here to ask for adoption of Resolution 20-08.
All right.
Second.
All right. I have a motion by Mr. Jordan to approve the adoption of the Resolution 20-08 2019 Public Participation Plan, and second by Mayor Williams. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Thank you, Abby. Great job. Next is 5C, approval of the Resolution 20-09 fiscal year 2020 to 2024 Transportation Improvement Plan, which we call it the TIP plan, and Georgiana is going to report on that.
Yes, this is a housekeeping item. The Florida Department of Transportation has requested an amendment to our currently adopted Transportation Improvement Program for fiscal year 20 through 24. And the project that we are amending into the TIP is on Attachment A, page 157. And it's State Road 3, Courtney Parkway, from Catalina Isle Drive, which is just south of the Merritt Island High School, to Venetian Way, which is just south of the beach line. And this is a drainage analysis, adding $225,000. We have been focusing on Courtney Parkway. It's an area where there's lots of pedestrians, bicyclists, and so what we want to do is to see how we can improve bus stops, corridor lighting, and put in missing pieces of sidewalk, specifically on the west side of the corridor within these limits. And this will get us to the point where we can actually program a project for bike ped improvements. So that is what this project is. And we are asking for approval of Resolution 20-09, amending our TIP via roll call vote, please.
All right.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval by Commissioner Lober, second by Ms. Minus. And discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Allender?
Yes.
Forrester?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Lober?
Aye.
Meehan?
Yes.
Minus,
Aye.
Williams,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Glass.
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
and the motion passes. Thank you. Next is, we'll have presentations. 6A is the FDOT Tentative Work Program, fiscal year 2021 to 2025. And here to report is Jamie again. Welcome, Jamie.
Hello, it's been so long.
Yes, it has.
Okay, I'm just going to go over some projects, some high-level projects, and also the timeline. Even though the work program public hearing has closed, we are currently in the review by legislation phase right now, and then by July 1st of next year, the work program will be adopted. The TPO did submit an objection letter to the department, and the department responded to the TPO's objection letter. A copy of those letters are in your packages for your review, but it was addressed. The objection letter was addressed, and that was the close of that was on the October 24th, or I'm sorry, the November 18th. So right now I'm going to go over some of the projects. These are the overview additions to the work program public hearing that came out of it. There's quite a few additions that were done in Brevard County. So I'm going to start at the top. So State Road 528 resurfacing from US 1 to State Road 401. There was $1.3 million for design that was added in fiscal year 21 and $12 million for construction that was added in fiscal year 23 for that project. Oops. John Rhodes Boulevard to O'Galley Boulevard to Aurora Road sidewalk project, there was $520,000 for construction that was added in fiscal year 21. State Road 520 resurfacing from Aurora Road to Hubert Humphrey Causeway, there was $1.5 million for design that was added in 21 and $8.5 million for construction that was added in fiscal year 23. The US 192 at Melbourne Causeway bridge repair, there was $1.3 million for construction that was added in fiscal year 21. Stone Magnet Middle School sidewalk gaps, there was $65,000 that was added for design in fiscal year 23. State Road 401 over a bridge canal, bridge repair and rehab, there was $1.7 million for construction that was added in fiscal year 21. State Road 520 and Indian River Bridge repair rehab, $1.7 million for construction was added in fiscal year 21. State Road 5, State Road 500 at Madrid Drive intersection drainage improvements, $1.2 million for construction that was added in fiscal year 22. State Road 518 O'Galley Boulevard at Turtle Mountain Road traffic signal installation, there was $708,000 for construction that was added in fiscal year 22. State Road 5 resurfacing from Post Road to State Road 404 Pineda Causeway, there was $566,000 for design added in fiscal year 21, $6.5 million for construction that was in fiscal year 23. State Road 404 from County Road 509 to State Road A1A bridge repair rehab, $762,000 for construction that was added in fiscal year 21. State Road 500 access management from Lake Drive to Var Avenue, $1 million for design was added in fiscal year 21, $4.5 million for construction was added in fiscal year 24. State Road 518 O'Galley Boulevard at Wookham Road signal improvements, $510,000 for design was added in fiscal year 21, $915,000 for construction was added in fiscal year 23. And State Road 518 O'Galley Boulevard at Cruton Road signal improvements, $426,000 for design added in fiscal year 21, $694,000 for construction and added in fiscal year 23. State Road A1A at State Road 518 O'Galley Boulevard intersection improvements, $260,000 for design added in fiscal year 21, $1.2 million for construction added in fiscal year 24. State Road A1A from Crescent Crescent Beach Drive to South Minuteman Causeway pedestrian safety projects, $210,000 for design added in '21, $1.1 million for construction added in fiscal year '23. NASA Boulevard sidewalk project from Eddie Allen Road to Evans Road, $110,000 for design added in fiscal year '21. And State Road 520 westbound St. Johns River Bridge repair rehab, $511,000 for construction added in fiscal year '21. Now we're going to go over the deferred, deleted, and moved out. Wickham Road at I-95 ramp improvements and mast arms. There was $3.2 million for construction that was deferred from just fiscal year '21 to '22. State Road 514 Malabar Road from Babcock Street to State US 1. $1.1 million for environmental mitigation was deleted from fiscal year '23, and $4.5 million for design was deleted from fiscal year '21 and fiscal year '22. US 1 State Road 404 widening from Panita Causeway to Park Avenue, $4.5 million for PD&E study was deleted from fiscal year '21. In the I-95 southbound rest area, there was $26 million for construction moved out from '21 to fiscal year '25. Now I can take your questions.
All right, Jamie, any questions? Commissioner Lober.
I've got one. I think it was on the second page that you had the list of additions on. So if you can go back there, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay, maybe it wasn't the second page. It was the portion that dealt with State Road 520, over the Indian River, the causeway. It was about a $1.7 million allocation. There it is. Yeah, for the repair and rehab. Do you have any idea in terms of what's contemplated as being the scope of that? Because the concern that I have is with some of the repairs and rehabs, we end up having obstructions that are put in place that hurt flow in the lagoon. And I wonder if that's something that's been contemplated in whatever's been spec'd out up to this point.
I can get that information for you.
I appreciate it if you would.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, is that it?
That's
Commissioner
it.
Lober?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
I have Mr. Forster and then
Mine's
Ms.
more along
Minus.
the lines of a comment. I was just fascinated that it's gonna cost $700,000 to put a traffic signal up. That, to me, is, I don't understand that.
it may depend on the details of that intersection.
Well, I mean, there's some where they're designing an intersection and making changes to it. This one, I think it was on page 2 of your additions. Back up one more,
Maybe.
right? Maybe it's further on. Anyway, there it is,
Yep, there it
the
is.
top one.
Yes.
700, and that's for traffic signal installation. It doesn't say anything about designing an intersection, adding a lane or just installing traffic signals. $700,000.
There is an open house. This is the one that I mentioned earlier about the open house being on January 7th, so.
If they're putting in a mast arm,
Yeah.
mast
Yeah.
arms are very expensive. So I would assume that is what's being put in.
Yeah.
Just commenting that it seems
Sure.
excessive.
All right, Ms. Minus?
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you go back to the screen? I think the one that Mr. Lober was mentioning about, Commissioner Lober, that one, with Stone Magnet Middle School. What area, is that in front of Stone School, or what sidewalk gap are they doing a design on?
Not sure. Do you know, Sarah?
It's a Safe Routes to School project, is all I know, is it was funded via SRPS.
Councilmember Minus, the City of Melbourne submitted that project for Safe Routes to School funding, and so we don't have the exact details, but we can certainly get that, and it was awarded. We will get that to you.
Okay, definitely appreciate that.
Yes.
That's in the middle of my district, so that's why
Yes.
my ears peaked up. So.
Absolutely. Yep.
And it's going to be just $65,000 for that?
For the
Just-
design of it, yes.
Okay,
the
that's why I'm
design.
wondering how far and how much and
Yeah,
the
so I'll
length
get
and
the
all.
termini for you, the length
Yeah.
and the location exactly where it will be.
And I believe they were awarded the construction as well, but it would have been in '26, so it won't show up yet in the work program.
Oh, okay.
That was my other question. Why is it pushed out to 23 since this is safe route?
The design was added into fiscal year '23, so.
the Safe Routes to School funding is in the out year, unfortunately. And so when a municipality applies for it, you're going to wait for it, unfortunately. So that sounds about right for the funding years.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I do have a couple observations I kind of wanted to bring to everyone's attention. Our number 1 and number 2 priority on our priority list under regionally significant did get some funding, which was really good news. The US 192 intersection improvements at Hollywood and Evans, which is our number 1 priority.
Oh, great.
Construction funding in 2024, and also a project in Cape Canaveral, A1A, the realignment of the International Drive North Atlantic intersection, which I think that DOT is looking at potentially a roundabout at that intersection to be determined. So some right-of-way funding for 21 and 22 was funded. So that's number 1 and number 2 respectively. And so that's good news. But what's missing off the list again this year is the future construction funding for Ellis Road, which is our number 1 priority on the SIS list. And so we're going to have a new interchange a new I-95 interchange that's going to open up onto Ellis Road, heading to the airport, and there's no sign of construction funding anytime in the near future. And so this has got to be our number 1 priority. I do know the district was working really hard to try and piece together the funding to get construction funded in the new 5th year, but just couldn't make it happen due to the right-of-way funding that was programmed over a 5-year period. So it's got to be our top focus next year. Also, I wanted to mention that there's lots of funding, I noticed, for resurfacing, bridge repair. There's safety projects in there, which is really good because it does bring up the roadway to current standards, which helps with safety. The objection letter that Jamie mentioned that I submitted on behalf of the TPO to the Secretary was that on the last page, the DOT did delete right-of-way funding off of our number 3 priority, and that is Babcock from Malabar to Palm Bay Road. That is a high congestion roadway, and it has been on the priority list for many years, and so that's very disappointing. And then there was also funding deleted from the design phase for Malabar Road from Babcock to US 1, which is another state road that is our number 5 priority. So, of course, funding gets deferred. We don't have, the gas tax just can't keep up with the need. However, when funding is deleted, that's a little bit more alarming. And so to kind of help us understand, do we know where the money went to?
To my understanding, a lot of the deleted funds were to go towards a lot of your top priority projects, so they were dispersed throughout some of your projects that were added into the work program.
To keep into the work program and try to get funded. Because we don't want it to go to I-4, obviously,
Right.
which is a black hole of funding.
Right.
But we do appreciate what you were able to do. There's a lot of funding coming into Brevard County, but we do have a lot of needs, and we need to try to continue the discussions as to what we're going to do to replace the fuel tax, because we can't keep up with the needs that we now have in Brevard County.
Yes.
So, thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I do have one.
Yeah, Mr. Jordan.
It's probably out of ignorance, but the bridge on 405, what's going on with that? I know there's a study that we kind of delayed things for a little bit.
The NASA Causeway.
NASA Causeway, yeah.
The construction was awarded. Space Florida got the award for construction for the infrastructure grant from USDOT. So that is really good news.
Yes.
And so the DOT is finalizing the PD&E, and it's moving right into the design phase. NASA funded the PD&E and the design. And so the USDOT grant will fund the construction. And so there are weekly meetings. That project is on a fast track like I have I've never seen a DOT project on a fast track like that one. And so it's moving along, and that's really good news for NASA and for all of us here in Brevard County.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I kind of wish it was on the fast track for Ellis Road.
Yes, that's what we're going to work on.
4 lanes. That's all I'm asking. I know we're going to pipe the ditch, but, you know, we really need to work on this Ellis Road.
Can you get some missiles on, or rockets on Ellis Road?
I don't know. I'm going to have to talk to the businesses on that road. Yeah.
Some people would like to see
Yeah.
that.
I would have to talk to a lot of folks on that road. All right. So thank you, Georgiana, and thank you, Jamie.
Thank you. Y'all have a great holiday and Happy New Year.
Yes, happy holiday and Happy New Year to you, too. Thank you.
Right-of-way acquisition.
Item number 6B, South Babcock Project Development and Environment. That's the PD&E study. And here to report is...
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lorena Cusick. I'm with the Florida Department of Transportation. I work in the Planning and Environmental Office. I am the PM for this project. But here today with me, I have Jesse Bloom with Inwood Consultant. He's going to do the presentation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and members of the board. Great to be with you today. So the Babcock Street PD&E study is in about 2/3 of the way complete at this point. And project development and environment study is the first phase in the project development process. And what this does is keeps the project eligible for future federal funding. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about this today. Why are we doing the project? I'm sure most of you know why. Babcock Road has a lot of development, a lot of planned land uses in and around the corridor. So when we do our analysis, we look out 25 years, in this case to 2045, and with all that new development, the roadway simply cannot handle the traffic. There are some safety concerns out there. There are no bicycle and pedestrian features. No lighting, that sort of thing. So the real goal of this project is to accommodate the future travel demand and to provide for a safer environment. So what we did is we took Babcock, which goes from Miko Road up to Malabar Road, including the Malabar Road intersection, and broke it into 3 segments. The first segment that you're seeing here is a 4-lane typical section, and it includes 12-foot travel lanes, a 6-foot wide sidewalk on the west side of the roadway, and a 10-foot shared use path on the east side of the roadway. What you're seeing on the right side is a portion of an existing canal. Because of the drainage out there, the canals do stay pretty deep, pretty wet, so it does warrant canal criteria, which is a guardrail in certain sections of the corridor, particularly the southern end. We'll also be replacing the bridge over the Sotilli Canal, and essentially this bridge typical section matches the roadway typical section, again providing for those pedestrian features, the wider travel lanes, and really kind of bringing this up to a 21st century roadway. The middle section, pretty much the same as the prior section. As we get in, again, you see in the upper right-hand corner the guardrail detail, the trail, the travel lanes all continue northward. As we get to the northern part of the corridor, we are in a little bit more of an urban environment, so we're able to slow down the speeds, narrow the travel lanes, and still keep the pedestrian features. We recently completed what's called a value engineering study, and we think that with the intersection options that are going to be implemented on this corridor, which are roundabouts for the majority of the intersections, that in the future this is going to be more of what we would refer to as a complete street. Slower speeds, more pedestrian features, certainly safety, lighting. Again, if anyone has been out on Babcock Street lately, you can certainly relate to the conditions. Again, the bridge over 95, which is now exactly 50 years old, that's going to have to be replaced. It's at the end of its useful life, and that's part of our analysis as well. And what you're seeing here, so it's a little bit complicated, but it's a good graphic. On the left-hand side, you're seeing a traditional intersection, a traditional signalized intersection. On the right, you're seeing the option that was selected for the Malabar Road intersection. And what we did is we evaluated a range of options. The first option we evaluated, because the heavy movement is eastbound Malabar to northbound Babcock. That's a heavy movement. So we looked at triple lefts that would provide the capacity for that movement. Unfortunately, the analysis showed that once we build it, it fails, so we scratched that. Then we kind of went to the other end of the spectrum and we looked at a flyover. Flyovers are pretty much out of fashion these days. They're impactful, they affect aesthetics, business, access, they're expensive. So anymore, the innovative intersections are really what is being analyzed in detail because it's going to save you money, it's going to provide for better traffic operations. So what a displaced left turn does, it allows certain cycles to go at the same time, and it's a really good option for the Malabar-Babcock intersection, which in 2045 we can meet DOT level of service standards, which for this intersection would be level of service D. And again, not have to do a flyover. So this was our preferred alternative coming out of the alternatives public meeting that we had July 30th. We had 188 people attend that meeting, and I have to tell you about 90%, maybe 95% were in favor of the project, and that's a rarity. I think it speaks to the need for this project and certainly the growth in the city of Palm Bay, and this corridor actually passes through Grant Valcaria, Malabar, the city of Palm Bay, Brevard County. So what we've done is work iteratively through with each step with the cities, with the county, to make sure, this is a county road. We want to make the decisions in tandem and make sure everyone is on board. So that's pretty much where we've ended up after a lot of analysis. There's a lot, PD&E studies include engineering, but they also include environmental analyses, public involvement, utility structure. So it's your first phase, so it's a lot more open-ended, and then the next phase, the design phase, you start to see where the construction plans are produced, and you have really more of a solid construction project at that point. We also looked at a displaced left north-south, but because that was not the heavy movement, we took that off the table at the value engineering study that we had. So the east-west, recognizing again Malabar is the critical juncture, it spills back to 95. The traffic out there today is certainly problematic, and obviously as we continue into the future with the growth in the area, this was a very good solution. So we're always receiving public input, and we continue our agency stakeholder working group. We're basically in the process of finalizing what's called the preferred alternative, meaning the alternative to move into the design phase. And then we anticipate a public hearing in probably early summer where we will present the preferred option to the public. We will get final comments. It's an official public hearing with a court reporter, and at that point, we'll finalize the study. So we probably have about 9 months to a year left, but most of the heavy lifting has been completed, and we're certainly excited to be advancing this through. Because I realize you probably may have some questions, what I did, and thank you, Lisa, for the help, is I brought a plot of the alignment that kind of shows you the initial concept. So if I could just take a minute or two and just kind of walk you through that, I think it may speak volumes compared to my narrative here. So again, the study goes to MPO Road, which because of our taper distance, we have to go about 2,100 feet south of MPO Road. And at MPO Road is where our first roundabout comes into play. We analyzed both traffic signals and roundabouts at all the major intersections. And the county chose the roundabouts because it does fit in with a future vision of slowing the speeds. Moreover, if 95 is blocked, this is definitely a secondary route to 95. And so in the event of a hurricane, with a traffic signal, you have to worry about power, generators, temporary signals as they come out. With roundabouts, you don't have to worry about that. In my professional judgment, that was a very good decision for this corridor because it's really the only way that you can start to slow these speeds and reach these future objectives. They can certainly be challenging from a public outreach perspective, but we have tools and data that help us there as well. So I'm just going to kind of go through here. What you're seeing in blue, we evaluate 3 pond sites per drainage basin, and we've just finished with the county selecting the preferred pond sites. So 2 of these for each basin will go away. And right here you're seeing the bridge over the Tilly Canal. Will be replacing that in kind as a 4-lane facility. Here you see the St. John's Heritage Parkway come in. This is a signalized intersection here. It works just fine based on the connector road that's currently under construction. And then we provide for a roundabout at Capitol Drive, which again provides for that future development in the southern portion of Palm Bay and Brevard County. Getting up to Sunrise Elementary, another roundabout there at Mar-a-Loma. And pretty much at that point, we stay on a tangent section. Again, roundabouts obviously at all major intersections, right in, right out, median types of all types depending on the spacing criteria. There are, unfortunately, you're seeing the R's and you'll see some C's. The R's stand for residential displacements and the C stands for commercial displacement or relocation. So, with a major infrastructure project like this, unfortunately, you do have the need for right-of-way. But through this process, we were able to really minimize a lot of those impacts. I'm just going to scroll up here. One of the key species you're seeing here is the Florida scrub jay, which is a federally protected species. And because you have a lot of undeveloped lands next to residential homes, they like to go and see people's bird feeders, their bamboo trees. So that is part of our mitigation. Certainly, again, the environmental analyses is just as important as the engineering, so we've taken that into account with mitigation opportunities as well. Just kind of going up Babcock Street, a lot of closely spaced streets, hence the need for right in, right out options. Just kind of continuing up, the county does have a project to realign Valcaria, so that's what you're seeing in yellow. The roundabout will be implemented there, and the R's you're seeing here are pretty intuitive. We had to avoid the Fountainhead Memorial Park, and because of that, it does result in some relocations given the location, the proximity, I should say, to Babcock. And up here at the north, where it's more of a commercial area, is where you'll start to see some of the potential commercial business displacements. And just to caveat that, because this is an older roadway, because the water table is very high, and because we're in the PD&E stage, we took a very conservative worst-case approach. So there is definitely opportunities once survey is obtained to further minimize these impacts. And I would suspect that you would see maybe a residential relocation 2 or 3 go away at that point. Again, the bridge over 95, which is basically on the same alignment given the configuration of 95 and the location of the piers. You get into Canal C77 to the north, along with a fair amount of overhead transmission utilities, which will require relocation. The good thing is there's only about 10 transmission poles. And then finally, we end at Malabar Road, where you would see the displaced left. What you're seeing in purple to the right is the planned Babcock Street section that Georgiana mentioned earlier, where the right-of-way is deferred. However, because this is a planned project, we tied into that future condition. So that basically takes us through the project and the corridor. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jesse. Any questions for Jesse?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mr. Jordan.
First one is these alternate ponds. Do they go anywhere? Do they drain anywhere, or are they just sitting there?
No, well, it's a combination. Where the Melbourne-Tillman Water Control District has outfalls, we've worked with Mike McCabe very closely to make sure that ponds are sited, for instance, near the Sotilli Canal, because that's basically the middle of the drainage basin, meaning everything flows to the Sotilli Canal. Plus, we also wanted to make sure for cost construction that, we didn't have to extend piping that far. So we balance kind of the technical drainage components with right-of-way costs, with impacts. And a lot of this was also based on the environmental conditions in the area because of the Florida scrub jay. But it's kind of a combination. There are isolated drainage basins, but essentially the whole area is wet. The ponds are fairly large, but
Okay, that's good. And looking at the displaced, I saw commercial and residential. I'm sure that's going to be very controversial for sure. How long is this project?
9 miles, approximately 9 miles.
No,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
apologize.
The length of Babcock, how
Yes, 9 miles.
long? Oh, 9 miles. I
Yes.
thought you said 9 months.
No,
Okay,
I
9
apologize.
miles.
No, 9 miles from Miko Road to Malabar Road.
And you have, I noticed the study, but you have a estimate of how much this thing would cost?
We do. It's a big number.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right now, a rough ballpark, and this is going to be refined. And again,
Just say it, man.
disclaimer.
Just say it.
We're looking at nearly a $250 million.
Just a quarter billion?
$250 million.
No, I heard what you said.
Oh, okay. $250 million approximately.
No, that's why I thought it would be more than that, to be honest with you.
I like you.
Yeah. I paid my
You make me
taxes.
sound good.
Red light, what's a $250 million?
that's
Yeah,
for sure,
I
so.
mean, and a part of that goes to with, where we're at in the economy right now. Material costs are very high. But then again, at this point in the study, it's kind of like a funnel. We go worst case conservatively. I'm very confident that amount will drop as we move forward.
Yeah, Georgiana.
I did want to mention, so the right-of-way costs are going to be,
Astronomical.
yes.
I believe the right-of-way cost for just the roadway was $54 million, and that's without the ponds. The ponds are large, several acres, so I believe you're looking at probably over $100 million in right-of-way.
This is a county road,
Okay.
as you mentioned, that goes through all these different cities. And design, we have design partially funded in one year or 2 years. But then, once we get that done, it's going to sit on the shelf because we have to figure out how we're going to fund this.
Well, and that's kind of the opportunity there. There's a challenge and an opportunity. The opportunity is the process with the federal project is you have to do reevaluations per phase. So you will have an opportunity to go back and reevaluate what was determined in PD&E and in design. And I think the problem, you have in an area like this that's developing, that has approved land uses, is that going to be the condition in 10 years when that funding may come through?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's been a part of every PD&E study I've managed. I've managed quite a few in my career, and that's definitely a challenge. If this were, even Malabar Road, for instance, we're looking at a different condition. But when you look at the sheer amount of land use planned, it's problematic.
Yep. All right, Mr. Kugelman?
Just one question, if you can educate me on something. I noticed that the lane width is 11 feet.
It's 11 feet on the northern portion of the corridor, and we can do that when you have a 50-mile-per-hour design speed with a 45-mile-per-hour posted speed. That's been an update now for about 3 years that the Florida Design Manual incorporated when the speed and the conditions are appropriate.
What effect, if any, based on your experience, I mean, now that we've seen this regulation in place for a couple of years, are we seeing any impact or any information showing what effect it has on safety?
Yes, sir. The national data shows that it tends to slow speeds, and it also has a traffic calming effect because you are in a little bit, of a driver behavior, driver expectation. So there are data available, particularly at the federal highways level. I'd have to look into that in more detail, but there is positive data relating to the 11-foot lanes.
I think what you're alluding to, I think a roadway is usually 12 feet, so you got 24 feet. You're losing a foot, and you're saying, I'm going to be calmer because I've got a smaller footprint for my big car.
That always makes me calmer.
Yeah, it kind of scares me.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's, that's definitely a blending of probably some psychological components and some engineering components.
Well, my
Mr.
comment would be,
Forrester.
just because something's allowed doesn't mean it's something we should do.
I agree. Well, let me restate that it was the county's desire again to slow the speed, and I think you can't do that with just one mechanism. It really has to kind of be a combination, and I think that's where the roundabouts and the lower speeds will make this more of a complete street and more pedestrian friendly, safer, certainly. But there's preferential opinions, and many people feel the same way. Absolutely.
Cars scraping each other as they go down the road will slow down the traffic, no question about that.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much for
Thank
the
you for your time.
presentation. All right, good to see you.
Jesse.
That's right. Do that every time.
All right, so again, no meeting on January, and we will meet on February the 13th. So any other comments or concerns? All right, seeing none, I'll adjourn the meeting at 2:55.
All right.
All right, thank you.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.